My name is Bakos. I'm at MTCM Labs. Today, I'm doing this video specifically for a certain category of people. Just to be specific, I'm doing this video for those people who would love to get into business. And of course, even those people who don't want to get to business, but who just want to have some understanding as to what are the dynamics at play when it comes to business and the businessman. So now, I'm going to make your life very easy. In fact, I'm going to say something that will change your life forever today. Your life will never be the same again if you can just listen to this video to the end. It's not the only video that I'm going to make on this topic because it's quite a very long topic. There are many dynamics involved when you talk about business. But as a way of introduction, in this video, I'm going to make sure that you see why a person needs to be in business and who are those people who can be in business and who are those people who cannot be in business. First of all, I must be honest with you, business is not for everyone. We always say business is not for the faint-hearted. Like I said, your attitude will determine your altitude. And if you are a quitter, if you know that you are a quitter, you like quitting, don't even think of business because it's not for quitters. It's for the people who fight on until they win. To be honest with you, many people have asked me, how can they be involved in business or how can they start their businesses? And most of the time, I'll start by saying, you know what? I suggest that if it's possible, just go and look for a job, get a job, be comfortable, and retire on your pension. Because business is such a difficult animal to deal with. It's very difficult. Many businesses that start every year, they don't see the very first year. Actually, I think it's almost 90% of them. They don't see the very first year. And then the 10% that is left, only 1% will go through 5 years. So it's a rough game. It's not for everyone. And yet, if you are a businessman, you enjoy the most freedom that many people don't enjoy. Because you know how to make your money. You don't rely on somebody's feelings. You don't rely on somebody liking you one day and it doesn't like you the other day. You don't rely on anybody expecting you to lick his ass. So you know you can write your own check and you can create your own machine to make your own money, count it and spend it the way you want to. But there's a catch. There's a big sacrifice when it comes to business. And I must say this from the beginning. But having said that, it must not deter you from thinking and actually starting your own business, because that will give you the real freedom that you are looking for, not the freedom that other people are fighting for. The real freedom is knowing how to start and run a successful business. So this topic today is about how to run a successful business without money. So that's the first thing. Now, many people, to the contrary, believe that many people believe that for one to start a business, you need money or you need a lot of money. In fact, my argument is that actually you don't need money. There are certain few things that I'm going to talk about that I believe that will change your life forever. And you will never be the same. You'll never look at things the same after you have listened to this video to the end. The first thing that, of course, you need to understand when it comes to business is to understand yourself. Now, understanding yourself may sound very easy. That I know my name is Bakos. I'm Bakos. Grew up in Davidson, but uh, there's something else that you must know. You must know your strengths and your weaknesses. The reason why you need to know your strengths and the weaknesses, and you must also know what is it that you know, and what is it that you don't know. So you actually look at yourself deep and say, if I can identify my areas of weakness, what do I need to do? What you need to do is to work on your areas of weakness. Leave your strengths alone. If you already have your strengths and you know them, you can list them on the board, and then you can list your weaknesses, go and work out on your weaknesses. Because if you want to start a business without putting down any money, you would need two things. You need to be good in sales and you need to be good in marketing. Because if you don't know those two, if you're not good in those, then there's no point. Then maybe if you are lucky enough, you are born from a family that is well off, you can go to your father or to your mother and tell them how much you love them and how much they love you. And then just ask them nicely to give you serious amount of money and go and start a business. Of course, they will tell you that you must go and do a market research and do a business plan. And to me, that's all nonsense. In business, you don't need a business plan. If you want to start it my way, all you need the two things that I've told you about. You need to know how to sell. You need to know how to market something. Okay. So those two terms, they sound uh, synonymous, but they mean two different things. But we'll deal with those at a later stage. But the reason why I said you need to work on your weaknesses is because one of the weaknesses that you may be having a serious weakness where you fear disappointment. Many people, for instance, what makes them not successful in business is because they can't sell anything. That's why you find that even somebody has started this business. In fact, I saw that many years ago, where a person has got products, but they are actually hitting the roof, and but he's not selling anything. It's because he cannot sell himself, so he relies on other people to sell. But anyway, let me just stick with what I started with, where I'm talking about knowing how to sell and understanding marketing. Now, if you know how to sell, all you have to do is just to be able to identify a person who has got a product, and then you would know yourself. Anybody with the product wants the product to be sold. And of course, once you have identified the seller, and then you need to identify the buyer. And once you have identified the two, the buyer and the seller, all you have to do is to move the product from the seller to the buyer. And that's where your commission comes out. And the commission structure can range from anything from 2% to 5% every time the product moves. But here's the thing that I want us to look at. How do you deal with the weaknesses that you have identified in yourself? Let us say, for instance, because one of the problems is actually the inability or the fear of selling anything to anyone. Now, if you are shy, maybe you are shy. And most of the time, why people don't want to be involved in sales and marketing is because they have got this fear of disappointment. If somebody says, no, sorry, I'm not interested, and the person feels bad inside, and he's even scared to move to the next person. Actually, he just feels like, you know what? This is not for me. I'd rather go home, sit on the sofa, take a remote, watch TV, and then with a glass of beer next to me. But a person who perseveres would say, well, if I spoke to two people and they say no, then I need to see 10. I need to see 10 more people, and then I know the 11th one will say yes. And when they go home, they have got one say after seeing 10 people. So Now that becomes very, very good. That makes a person a good salesperson in that case. So that the first thing that you need to deal with, you've got to deal with the fear of disappointment. And it's a serious, serious problem, that one. Because many people, they have got chips on their shoulders, they have got their egos, they cannot, humble themselves, to go and introduce themselves to a person and say, hey, man, I'm so and so, I'm selling this product, are you interested? Okay, because of the same problem where they fear a disappointment, or they fear rejection. They feel that, if someone says, no, sorry, I'm not interested, that person is actually rejecting them. And therefore, that instills so much fear that they don't want to continue doing this thing. Okay. So how do you deal with that? That's one that I've mentioned. The other one that I've mentioned, I'm gonna tell and deal with, is when you don't know your product, you don't know what you're selling, you don't master the product, the properties of the product, what the product can do, and you do not understand which market actually is supposed to consume the product. So those two areas become very, very important. Dealing with your own uh, weaknesses, and also making sure that you understand the product. Now let's take this one, for instance, where you have to deal with this fear in you. And when I used to run business seminars and workshops, actually, when I was in NAFCOC, I used to run business development workshops. In fact, I used to deal with a lot of young entrepreneurs. And then they would ask me, but how do you start conquering this fear that is gripping you, that is stopping you from actually selling any product? Then I would say to them, no, just like, a person who is playing a guitar, or who is learning how to play a guitar, or a tennis player, once you see a tennis player swinging in the tennis court, you may think that he was born swinging like that. Or you see a guy playing a guitar, nice song, and everything looks effortless. It's so easy, to look at the guy and think that they actually was born like that. Or maybe in my case, for instance, just to make an example that I lived with, for instance, if you go to theater and then you see a surgeon, operating on somebody's abdomen, and then you see the way the guy handles the scalpel. The first time I went to theater and I saw this, I said, wow, this guy is very intelligent, He means he's talented, he was born like this. No, everybody gets trained. Okay. We all get trained. So you first get educated and then you get trained, all of us. And we are trained by repetition, all of us. So the only way that you can actually get out of that fear that is gripping you and stopping you from selling is just by training your brain. And how do you train your brain? You just keep repeating one and the same thing until you are used to doing it, until it becomes second nature. For instance, if you want to practice how to sell a particular product, or maybe you want to practice how to approach a person, and all you have to do, you first have to sit, not to sit, stand in front of the mirror, look at yourself, because you have got to also look at your facial expression. It tells you how you look like when you're doing something. And you can look at yourself in the mirror alone, and you can start practicing how to sell a particular product. If, for instance, you are selling a toothpaste, and you stand in front of the mirror and you have the toothpaste on your hand, and you greet yourself and say hi. Maybe you can call yourself something else, instead of saying Bakos. Maybe say, hi, Mr. Muller. My name is Bakos. I'm from this company, whatever company. I'll say, in my case, I'll say, my name is Bakos. I'm from Mass Democratic Civil Movement, and we produce a toothpaste. This is a toothpaste that we are producing, and these are the features. So you start explaining the features of the toothpaste. If you're scared, you don't feel comfortable, just start by actually practicing, just greeting yourself in the mirror and say, hi, my name is Bakos, I'm from Mass Democratic Civil Movement. That's enough. You've already sold something. At least you have already sold yourself, because that's the first thing that you do whenever you're selling any product or any service for that matter. You first have to be able to sell yourself to a person. So the introduction is important. When you introduce yourself, already that particular person who is listening to you and looking at you, he can see that you are confident, and the way you introduce yourself, it means you know what you're talking about. I mean, just by starting to introduce yourself, someone can get the sense that this guy knows what he's talking about. And then the next thing to introduce will be the product. Of course, you cannot introduce a product that you do not know. You should know the name of the product. I mean, I take it that you do everything to master the properties of that particular product or that particular service, what the service offering that you have. So once you have mastered the product itself, mastered the properties of the product, and you know how to introduce yourself, it's done. Everything is done. Because the next thing, it can just be the discussions. That's where a person maybe will be arguing and say, but I once bought a product like this, and then people promise that and that, and then it didn't work for me. And then in that case, at least it's a conversation. But at least you have broken the ice, and then you have somebody listening to you, and then it's a 50-50. You may get the deal, you may not get the deal. But at least you start enjoying doing this thing. Because one of the things that I want to make sure that it doesn't happen when you are selling anything is that you feel like quitting, and you feel like, I'll never be able to sell anything because look at this guy. He just told me that no, he's not interested. Or even when I introduced myself, I started biting my tongue, and the next thing, there was no deal. So it may sound stupid. It may sound very, basic. And, someone can say, no, it's almost like you're talking to a grade one or something like that. This is the most important thing in business. In business, if you don't know how to sell something, you don't understand marketing, there's no business, I can tell you right now. So this is the first thing. Even if you want to start a business with $1 million, or you have got 20 million, maybe your father gave you 20 million when he died, or you have it once he's still alive, still you have got to master this area, because if you don't know this area, you're going to squander that money. That money will go down the drain, and after that, you will never be in business again, because you will know that you have lost so much money, you'll be so discouraged and depressed, and you'll never come back to business. But if you learn these basics that I'm telling you, I'm teaching you, this is not like, rocket science. This is easy, and anybody can do this. So, especially these days, because the economy is so bad, guys, it's so bad. You have got to have certain skills of survival. Some survival skills are very, very important. The companies have closed down. I mean, I was driving around Faraday the other day. I went to Isando. I looked at Sevens at Jetpack. Companies have closed down, and I can tell you why. It's because of load shedding. Because when these factories and these, mainly the factories, when they were designed, they were never designed to operate with generators or solar panels. They were designed to work with electricity. So in the absence of electricity, there's no other way. They just had to close down. And that is why many people are unemployed. So discussions like this become very, very crucial, because if you do not know right now how to actually sell something and you're unemployed, I can tell you now, the future is very bleak. There's no chance that you'll be employed very soon. Yeah? So you've got to start learning certain skills of survival. That is why I'm bringing this topic. And also, the beautiful about this idea of knowing how to sell something, mastering sales and marketing, is that you don't necessarily have to sell one product, because someone can argue and say, but Bakos, you are saying the companies are closing and we need to sell products and market products. How are we going to market? Which products are we going to sell and market? Because companies are closing. The beauty is that with those companies that are still left, at least you can still make some money and survive. Or even if you're innovative enough, make some money and start being innovative and coming up with solutions to solve the problems that we have. It means coming up with enough capital that we would have actually gotten from your sales and marketing business. And then you start diversifying your business. You get into other businesses where you even identify opportunities within the problems that we have in the country. Who knows, maybe you can actually come up with hydrogen electrolysis, production of energy using hydrogen electrolysis, or maybe you can look at other, maybe you can actually start looking at gas, exploring gas, and say, okay, we can actually go from gas to energy because we have the capital to invest. And you can start liaising with people from other parts of the world and bring the technology here. So what I'm trying to say, I'm just trying to capacitate you, just to give you something that you can do, right? And then to actually move a step forward or many steps forward. Now, remember, in my opening statement, or maybe the topic of this business is actually how to start a business without money. Here's the problem that many people sometimes miss. It's easy to say, go and sell something, sales and marketing. But if you have never done it before, it can be very, very difficult. So my recommendation is that if maybe you find it difficult to practice, the way I'm telling you how to practice things, one of the things, or one of my best advices that I've given many, many people, but I'm going to just make 2 examples. One of my favorite ways of dealing with this problem of not knowing sales and marketing, or even how to start a business. Because remember, to start a business is never taught at school. How to start a business is never taught at school. There's no university that can teach you how to actually become a successful businessman. Even those who are lucky, who come from families that are running businesses, they are lucky because there they discuss business on the dinner table, and they do it every day because probably the father or the mother is involved in business. But if you you have never been lucky like that, and you just found yourself at a tertiary institution, and then you come out of there, or maybe high school, or whatever you have done, and you have never been through the business world, or the business family, then you sort of have a disadvantage. You have got a serious disadvantage there, in that you have to learn how business works. So now, business is never taught in the schools. There's no school that teaches business. In fact, I always argue that if you want to be in business, you're wasting your time if you stay at school. You shouldn't stay at school too much. Matric is enough, and if you understand accounting and you understand mathematics, because at least those are the 2 subjects that I believe. And of course, I assume that you will be knowing, English, because English is a language, and I assume that you would have had an exposure to a little bit of economics, because economics is something that you can actually read once you are out of the school environment. But these 2, mathematics and accounting, I think at least if you can, any child who is at school today who wants to be in business should just do him or herself a favor and know those subjects. You don't have to be like a distinction candidate, but it's just to understand how those subjects work. Actually, 50% is enough, and then at least you will be able to survive in business. Even less sometimes is enough, as long as you have got the brain to understand those things. So now, when it comes to the other option that I would strongly suggest is that you learn how to work for free. Now, what do I mean by that? You just identify something that you like. If maybe you like, let's say, cosmetic manufacturing, or you like IT, just look for one IT company and just approach the CEO of that. Wear your suit and the tie. Just go and prepare your profile or your CV or whatever, and then you just say to the boss of that IT company, if maybe you really love the IT, and you just say, you know what? I'm Mabuto Mkulise, or I'm Bakos Mkulise. Here are my qualifications, and I really love IT. And please, can you just take me into your company? I just want to work for free. I don't want a cent from you. I just want to volunteer because I want to learn. And then now, once you're like that, you're not a liability to anybody. There's nobody who's going to refuse you a chance when you want to learn. But now what you do, Then you start becoming a hard worker in that organization, and you become an all-rounder. And you make sure that you learn as much. Actually, you must just learn as much as you can, because your main aim is that you want to grasp as much information as possible, because at the end of the day, what you want to do, you want to go and set up your own business. And they usually, you tell the good lies, because if they ask you what you want to do after this, never tell people that you want to go and start a business. Probably can make them uncomfortable. Although, I mean, you are insignificant in the space, but you can, some people, for one reason or the other, there are issues of intellectual property and so forth. But if you say to them, listen, I just want to have skills so that at least I can be employable, you understand? Then you'd convince any executive, if you are like that. Even me, if I get somebody tomorrow and says, listen, I want to work for you for free, I'll sign that person up and start teaching that person immediately. You understand? And even if he goes, and I don't care even if he can walk away with my intellectual property, I don't care. But I know he will never catch up with me, because I'm somewhere. I mean, he would start where I started in any case. But anyway, that's a second way of doing things. Remember the first one I said to you guys, you just sit down. I mean, you just stand up, try like sitting down, stand up in front of a mirror and start rehearsing these things, because you are training your brain how to say these things. And you look at yourself, your facial expression, and then you keep repeating one and the same thing. And they say, I'm Pakos Kulis, I'm from Mass Democratic Civil Movement. And at Mass Democratic Civil Movement, we produce this toothpaste, and this is how this toothpaste works. And why somebody must buy that toothpaste, because this one you use a little bit, but it foams well, and then it has got these ingredients. It's approved by dentists, and it works so well, it cleanses whatever, all those claims that we always make on those products. But you have to have a story to tell, and you just keep repeating the same story. You don't have to change the things, but of course you need to have the theoretical background now of that particular product. That's where I'm talking about knowing the product in and out, just like the palm of your hand, meaning that you know the ingredients that went in there, how it was manufactured, even if you don't know how to manufacture the product itself, but at least the theoretical background around it. You understand? Because some people can ask you, for instance, does it contain ammonia? And then you should know the catch points where they can say, hey, but now if it has got this as a preservative, or then this thing has caused cancer somewhere in America, how do you deal with it? Then you may have a problem there. There are so many things. Other people, they are particular about certain chemicals, so you should know what went in there. So what I'm trying to say is that deal with your weaknesses. Identify all your weaknesses. I've just identified just one or two, where I'm saying maybe you are looking at the situation where you are afraid to talk to someone, or the other one is just maybe you don't have knowledge about the product. So those are the two things that I think are very, very important. And I can guarantee you, if you can do that, if you can identify a product, but now to make it easy for you, because the economy is not good, identify a product and master it, identify who is going to buy the product. And then once you have identified the seller, and then you negotiate your commission. Because remember, when you go to a seller, then you say to a seller, listen, I can sell your product. Nobody's going to say no, because I want money. You understand? And then the next question you will ask him, but if I sell your product, how much do you pay me? He says, what are you looking at? I say, give me 5%. He says, okay, it's fine. You can either mount it on the product itself. Sometimes some of the product owners don't like that. They can just pay you from what they are getting. And of course, the contracts and so forth, they're important, but that's a discussion for another day. And the other thing, you can actually have multiple products that would be selling and marketing. And then, of course, we'll deal with advertising material at a later stage, because those are the other details that we're not going to touch in this video. And then now, once you have that, then it's easy for you to start living a little bit of a comfortable life and start planning ahead to say, okay, fine. Now that I've got some money, what is it that I'm going to do now myself? And so, in terms of innovation, am I going to come up with my own product? But here's my advice, guys. I've been involved in many businesses. There's only one business that has ever made money for me. Only one. It's when I was doing sales and marketing. I made my money. I used to make, those days, what, 20 years back, I used to make 400, 500,000 rands per month. You see. But the day I moved from sales and marketing, then I started wanting to own a product. I went to manufacturing. The day I did that was I went to cosmetic and toilet manufacturing. I had a factory. Oh boy, that was the time I saw flames, because now you suddenly have employees. Now you have got a rent. Now you have got to pay the rental. Now you have got electricity. You have got the rental of the factory for the to pay the rent for the factory. You have got employee salaries, and then you have got stock shrinkage. Now you have got vehicles on the road, and you have got some of the clients that don't pay you on time. They pay you on 30 days, others on 60 days, 90 days. We have got promotional material. We're printing t-shirts, pens, and everything. Let me tell you something. That was a bad idea. But I did it. That was a bad idea. I wish I was just intelligent enough to stick to what was working for me, which was sales and marketing. Because once you have the workers on your work at your workplace, now immediately you have got the unions knocking at your door. And once those workers unionize, that's the end of you. I've got a lot of my friends that I was in manufacturing with. They can tell you, I'll invite them one day. I'll interview them, and then you listen. They will tell you stories what actually happened to them. You see? So what I'm trying to say that I suggest that if you are good at it, you are good at sales and marketing, stay there. Don't move an inch. You can just invest your money. And there are many financial instruments, or various asset classes that you can actually invest at. And you can educate yourself. You don't need any broker. You don't need anybody, to start handling money for you and say, I'm going to do this for you. No. You just educate yourself how to do these things yourself. And then that is how you can actually diversify. When I finished at med school, one of the things that I knew that, because I finished around 96, I knew, 95, yeah, 95 and then 96 I did internship. One of the things that I knew was that I would not be able to make money out of the misery of the patients. You see, I knew that, medicine doesn't have money. Being a doctor, there's no money. There's work, there's hard work, there's a lot of work. You work hard as a doctor. We don't sleep, but there's no money. In medicine, there's no money. That one I knew from the beginning. I'll tell you a story how I actually suspected that from first year when I arrived, at med school. But anyway, then I had to make up my mind immediately. What do I do with this? I have this degree. What am I going to do? And I loved it. Yes, I did all the other courses. I found myself with a lot of experience working in various departments. Then I ended up with a diploma in anesthesiology. I worked in many places. But fortunately enough, I never lost my entrepreneurship spirit. I've always been looking at entrepreneurship as a solution. So I believe in entrepreneurship so much. In fact, it's my gospel. So then I said to myself, I won't make money out of medicine because these people are sick. How am I going to make money out of them? The irony is that actually, because I went private, anesthesiology anesthetics is better because at least you're in theater, operations are there. But the problem is you don't have time for yourself. You wake up in the morning, by 4 o'clock you are awake because you're already moving. There's a surgeon that said you must meet at 7 o'clock. He's cutting at 7. Before you know, There's another one who's calling you when you finish, go there. I've got a laparotomy, and that one has got the fetal research. That one is, hey. And then by the time you come home, it's midnight. And you can't think about any other thing. The only thing that you are busy with, you are thinking about is what you're doing. And as the years roll over, then you realize that, oh, no. Your innovation, a lot of things that you are interested that you like, it looks like you'll never be able to do. Hence, I decided that no. Maybe I need to go to what I like most, which is actually business. I love business because it's very practical. Okay, anesthesia is practical, but what I like is I can do anything that I want. There's no book, that I have to follow. You understand? I can use my brains to say I'm going to do this, and if it fails, I'm gonna do that. If it fails, I'm gonna do that, and nobody's gonna die in the process. The only thing that can happen is that I'll lose my money. But with the discipline that I am from, I mean, there's quite it's quite serious, quite involved. It's very stressful, and there's quite anything can happen. The adverse outcomes are always next to you all the time. Anything can happen. So I had a friend of mine, just to give you an example of what I've been talking about. I took him. In fact, he's a young guy. We became friends because we were playing music together. He was a drummer. So in my band, I had a music band, so I was a drummer. And then, but there was a time when the music band was not working well, and he ended up looking for a job. I said to him, no, nobody's going to employ you. No one employs anybody these days. But fortunately enough, I had my next door neighbor, was a white guy. He had a company. He was doing a business signage. He was in the signage business. So I said to him, listen here, I've got a young man who's prepared to learn, but learn for free. I'm prepared to take him. And I said to him, please don't pay him a cent. I don't want you to pay that guy. I just want you to teach him and teach him everything that you know. He said, no, bring him. As long as he doesn't want my money, bring him. So I went to this young friend of mine. I said, listen, I got you a place where you're going to learn everything about signage. And because he always was looking forward to doing graphic design. He loves graphic design. Even at home, he had his laptop, used to do graphics. So it sort of made sense, that, well, he's going to do business signage now. So there will be graphics that is involved. And he loves playing around with computers. I took him, I put him there, and then he worked with this guy for 2 years, with my neighbor for 2 years. And they were doing well. And I said to him, be an all-rounder. Don't sit in one department. You must be in the front desk. You must go to the manufacturing of signs. After doing graphics, of course, do graphics, go to the manufacturing, and we must also do installation, and also after sales support. And that's what he did. After 2 years, when my neighbor's company started having problems, he left, and then but he joined another company that was actually doing signs. And he was a senior guy there. He was working for a salary. Fast forward, that one, I think he worked for a year or two, and then he ended up setting up his business. And he's running a very big signage business. I'm very proud of him. I said, look, and every time I meet, he always tells me, he says, hey, you liberated my mind, because if it was not of you, I would still be trapped and thinking that actually I need somebody to employ you. So there are many, I can talk about this the whole day. Many people that come from these hands, that I sat with, and I told them how to actually approach life, especially business life. But anyway, so guys, I don't want to make this video too long, but having said what I've said, all you need to do, you can actually maybe ask me questions, or you comment, or you share the video if you want with other people. But I would love to get the feedback, because I want to do a lot of these videos, but I need some direction, as to what is it that is bothering some people. What is it that people want to know when it comes to business? Whether you want to know which subjects you need to take at school, or you want to know how can you approach, how can you identify a product that is going to suit you, uh, you know. So you can, with your comments or your questions, put something that will make me prepare. You understand? And say, I'm going to address these areas. Because right now, because this business, I think this business thing is too broad, I just thought of starting so simple. I can go deep in business when I start talking about market research, business plans, break-even points, SWOT analysis, and all those things. I don't want to go there because those things, yeah, you sound intelligent with all these big names, but you don't make an impact. You don't assist anybody. I see a lot of YouTube people or on YouTube, the so-called, they call them, they're running master classes and all those things. But they're talking about something that we'll never be able to do. I mean, they will tell you about General Electric, how General Electric increased the sales, how Lamborghini is sold, how Ferrari is sold. No. I mean, you don't even have a bicycle. Now, how are you going to start? Can't sell a Ferrari. Who's going to buy a Ferrari from you? So, what I'm trying to say is that I am looking at a person who wants to start small, and you want to grow big. And then you are asking yourself, where can you start? What can you do? So these are the comments that I want. These are the questions that I want. Share this video so that I get more people asking me, questions, commenting. Even if a comment or a question, even if it's negative comments, they build me because they make me know that, oh, okay, my video was not that impactful. In fact, it was boring, and now I know that, okay, if I'm going to do the next video, it has got to be like this, and it has got to be like this. So I can only be built by you, even if it's negative. I want it, okay, but please just indicate whether it's thumbs up or thumbs down. I'm okay with it, and leave that comment. I want to know what is in your mind. Share that video so that other people can start actually asking me questions or commenting, and that is the only way we can actually work together and then and get somewhere, especially when it comes to business. I'll share my experiences in business as well at some point, but please let us assist each other in that regard. Okay, thank you very much, and I hope it was actually